All right, so this is me journaling my trading session of Friday 8th of May, 2026. So basically what I'm doing is I'm sticking to a strategy of trading the ICC method, which is indication, correction, and continuation. I'm focusing on sharpening the skills needed for me to consistently trade this system in this method using the euro dollar as my starting pair. Basically what I want to do is have consistency throughout a month of trading, and after that potentially go for a FTMO challenge. So I already discussed this with Claude, but I want to do this video so I can reference it back and just analyze the mistakes I'm making, what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm checking my bias for the day. I'm going into the daily, just zooming out, seeing that overall the pair that I'm looking to trade is absolutely bullish. So let me move this time frames here. Perfect, so I can use my tools. So definitely we're seeing a bullish trend on the asset, on the pair. So immediately I'm just using my D1, my daily graph, just to check my bias. So my bias is bullish. I'm moving down to the H1, and the first thing I'm doing is I am identifying my sessions. So if I zoom in, so I identify my sessions, I'm just making sure, since I'm always going to be trading New York Open, what I want to do is identify what happened during Tokyo session, what happened during London session. So my Tokyo session is this yellow vertical line, and my London session is this orange vertical line. Right after I do that, I zoom out and I try to identify my areas of interest. So the first thing I identified is that during Tokyo, we reached a new higher high, because we're seeing higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low. So this higher low right here represents my support for my session, because it's the previous Tokyo session. Also identify that before the Tokyo session, we saw price consolidating, and the consolidation happened after this huge indication toward the upside. And actually, by looking at Tokyo session, I identified this as support. And you actually see that previous to this was also support that price was respected once it did a impulse, once it did an indication to the upside. So before Tokyo session, we saw price breaking that, going to a new higher high, and correcting back, creating this area of interest that I marked. Why did I mark this area of interest? Because this is where price started correcting, creating a new higher low, and then it started bouncing off of it. It bounced off of it to correct to Tokyo session, and then during London session, it created what to me is 100% indication of a bullish trend, because it broke that and immediately started consolidating there once New York opened. So then we moved to New York. New York opened at this blue vertical line. This is where New York opens, and we see that that area of interest that I marked was correct, because we see that New York stayed there and started bouncing off of that. But now we're going to move to the 15-minute timeline to confirm that, because on the 15-minute, what we can see on the 15-minute is precisely that. Let me see. What did I just do? So we can see that New York opened this area of interest represented a correction, because London session was entirely an indication, because it did a new higher high after Tokyo session, higher high, higher low, and then it broke the area of interest to create a new higher high, which on the 15-minute is actually not a higher high, but it did break that area of interest that was created before. That represents just this indication grabbing this liquidity right here before Tokyo session. This is 100% a liquidity grab, and that's what I also understand by talking to Claude about this. It's grabbing liquidity from this sellers that created momentum, but they weren't able to break the support, so price started, grabbing this liquidity and going back to the upside. And then this support was created. New York, literally, what it does is it creates this as the support. It rejects, but it creates a new higher low, which then makes this the correction, creating a continuation, confirming the ICC setup. So again, this right here is the indication. I'm going to mark the line. This is the indication. Let's do it right. So this is my indication right when London opens, because it creates a higher high. Actually, it creates a higher high. Then it creates a higher low right here. And then we see price creating a higher high, breaking with this big wick and inverse hammer candle this area of interest. So this is the entire thing is the indication. You have this small correction, but once you see the break of this area of interest, I should be able to identify this right here as the entire indication. Because if you see it on H1, I can clearly see that this right here is my indication. This is my indication right here. I can clearly see it on H1. This is my indication. Breaks the area of interest. Indication confirmed. Now, M15, what I'm looking at is price starts doing a correction. And it eventually does it completely, because it comes down and starts right on this candle. We see the price, the buyers getting momentum up the area of interest, rejected it. But as soon as it rejects, we see a bullish candle. Buyers started getting momentum. So that's when I move to M5, and everything ends up piecing together, because we can see that price broke this area of interest. Now, this is where I started losing my mind, because I thought this was the correction. I thought this was the correction right here, and this was my continuation. So I wanted to trade this area right here. I wanted to trade this area right here, but I didn't do it because I saw this huge ass candle. So while I was journaling, I actually identified that since under this, and then once New York opens, we have this huge thing. I start looking at price on the M5, and I actually identified that New York created, once it opened, New York created a new higher high. Because this candle right here, right when New York opens, we see a higher high. So that should be my starting point, because then this higher high, and then actually, what did I just do? Give me a second. We can just get rid of this because I'm approaching the end. Let's just get rid of this. Because if I take this, New York creates a new higher high, and then this is a higher low. Then it starts consolidating, because it does a lower high, and it does a lower low. But we see how then it shoots up, right? We're seeing price action at its finest because we see it shoot up. This right here, breaking this area of interest that marks where price, London broke this area of interest, as I've already mentioned. Then New York broke that as a support, but started consolidating and shoot up. So this right here, I'm just going to leave that line. This right here is my indication of new bullish trend. With that being said, what I have to do now is, let me move this slowly. Okay. So what I have to do now is identify the rest of the ICC, which I did, but I didn't trust myself, because right after price did this, it started correcting. So this right here is the correction on this bear candle, and this is very important, because if I double click this and double click this, I'll have them set up. Actually, I'm gonna write on this. So this is my correction. This is my indication. Let's see if I can change the color to white. So this is my indication, and this is my correction. This is my correction. So I have indication and correction. Perfect setup. Because now I have to trade the continuation, right, of the bullish and bias. The problem is that I didn't flag, or I wasn't able to see this wick. This bullish wick is my point of entry, without a doubt. This is my point of entry, because this wick shows me that I should enter, because it's rejecting my area of interest. And given the fact that we have now, immediately after that, see a bullish candle form, I should have entered right then and there. I should have entered right then and there, because this wick is my rejection to end up firming continuation to the upside. Trade would look like this. I'm not going there as to why I decided to enter here, which was just, at this point, I'm seeing that this is fucking insane. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, but getting better. This is literally my second time trading. This right here was 1,000%. This right here, for the sake of this video, this was a revenge trade, because I thought that price was going to go up to that all-time high, and this right here, I thought, oh, this is never going to be broken, because price is not just going to go all-time high all of a sudden. It's going to not break this and bounce off it. I entered a sell, which was fucking ridiculous, but let's forget about that. Focus here is that this should have been my entry, and the trade should have looked something like this. So, doing balance risk, risking 1% of the account, and was going to enter right there on the close of that candle, open of the pull candle, with my stop loss right here, right below this previous indication, because I'm entering the correction, so you have to enter the previous lower low if you're bullish. So the bottom of my indication is my stop loss, and then going 1-2, I would have gotten take profit right then and there. I would have gotten my take profit. We've gotten 193. Beautiful risk reward ratio of 1-2. Fortunately, it happened. I didn't trust myself. I want to make a highlight of this video the fact that the only reason I wasn't able to capitalize on this is because I didn't trust myself, and I wasn't able to find ICC setup soon enough. But just make sure that I make a mental note and I establish my own strategy and stick to it. Always going to be doing identify my bias on the daily, moving down to 8-1 to identify my previous sessions and what price action is doing, confirm the bias, and look for structure, look for what happened before, right at the close of London session and the overlap with New York. And once New York opens and I start a trade, I wait at least for the first 15-minute candle, because at that point I move to the 15-minute and wait for the price to show me structure on M15, where it's finding structure. I'm gonna see whatever price does. I will identify it as either a correction or an indication. In this case, saw that it was correcting London, and then my area of interest. Also, it's on each one that I am drawing my areas of interest, my support and resistances. On 15, I am confirming and seeing if there's another area of interest I want to mark up, and then at 5 is going to be where I take action, where I actually pull the trigger on the trade. And yeah, that's for the day. It was day 1 trading the FTMO account on the free trial. I ended on a negative P&L. I'm journaling here. Both trades here. Number 1 was a break even. I just lost the commission, but number 2 actually gave me a huge L. So it's a no-no. Yeah, that's for today.